comes to dating?
I think
and when you're doing partner selection.
When it's whether you've been with one person or 100 people, I think that's very private. I would never ask somebody that. If somebody talked about that, no matter what the number was, if they were like proud of it or whatever, I don't think I would talk to them because they're talking about it. I think it's private.
If a man had been prosecuted multiple times for domestic abuse, would you consider that to be something which was pertinent for you to know?
Yes.
How come? It doesn't mean that he's going to domestic. Hang on. It doesn't mean that he's going to domestically abuse you. Why do you feel like it's pertinent for you to know that information?
Because it's like informed consent. Like I need to know that that's a potential risk in my relationship.
Right. So because it's throwing out red flags for risk, right? Why would body count be any different than that?
Because are you talking about risk as far as STD? Because there could be
not just STDs, but there's all sorts of other risks which come with it. For instance, if two virgins get married, the chances that they'll stay married are really, really, really good. Really good. And when it comes to women who are highly promiscuous, who have more than 20 partners, the chances that they're going to stay with their significant other, really, really, really bad. So the thing is that as we look at the details here, we're using risk assessment models, right? We're trying to assess risk for the same reason that you would want to disclose to you if a man had been charged and is guilty of domestic abuse, even though that does not prove that he would abuse you. Why would that then be wrong for a man to want to know the body count of a woman to assess his own risk?
I just don't think I think it's like very lewd to talk about. I don't like it. I don't think it's...
Yeah, I think that talking about domestic abuse is pretty lewd too. But that would be something that you would want to know about, isn't it?
It would be. Yeah, but it's just like that goes into things like, asking about maybe I don't know. It's just kind of like private. Like some things are private. Like I think your body's private, and if you have an OnlyFans, that's pertinent, but I don't know.
Killer of Cereal donated $200. So if the guy is only 5 feet 11 inches and is only 100,000 air, and is an assistant to the CEO but not the CEO himself, he wouldn't butter your biscuit? What would you bring to the man's life?
Oh, man.
Your quick response,
My quick response would be, I can't say unless I'm able to infer connection there. I'm not sure. Not necessarily true. And what do I bring to a man's life? I would say low body count, decent looking, take care of myself, unproblematic, not a party girl, great personality, easy to get along with, great friends, and just a good old fashioned girl. No body count. Yeah, good girl.
Well, I'd like to get back to this convo. It was very interesting. I appreciated you bringing that up. So, as we kind of dive into this, I understand what you're saying, that having conversations which are uncomfortable are uncomfortable. And I can understand why a woman would want to conceal this information because it's very uncomfortable to talk about this information. But I don't know how you could make a case that it wouldn't be pertinent for a man to be informed about the body count of the woman that he wants to date long term. Why would that not be pertinent information for him to know?
Well, I guess it would really depend on what the man's values are and what he considers pertinent information.
His values are he just wants to hump chicks who have a low body count. That's his only value, let's say.
Okay, well, a man like that...
Why would that preference in any way be bad in any way?
It's not bad. It's just I feel like these young, it's just something that younger people talk about. They just talk about it. They're like, oh, this is my body count. It's just new. People didn't do that when I was growing up. So
yeah, they did.
It's just
they did.
I don't remember that happening.
Yes, they did. Here's the thing. You're growing up around the same time that I was growing up. And the thing is that we talked about sex all the time.
Yeah.
We talked about which chicks were hoes. We talked about which chicks weren't hoes. You talked about which men were playboys. You talked about which men weren't playboys. This cope of, well, when I was younger, you're ancient, you lived 75 years ago, you lived 100 years ago, you lived during the Civil War era 200 years ago. It's all pure cope, right? You were growing up, what, at the latest in the 90s? You think we weren't talking about sex in the 90s?
I didn't say not talking about the sex.
Hang on.
I just
that is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever
No,
heard.
I
All
didn't
we
say
talked
that.
about in the 90s was sex.
Yes, but I said, like, I don't remember the specific thing about, like, talking about, like, a body count, like that being a phrase.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
And
What
I was
do you
in a
think
relationship from 18
what does
to
hoe
30,
mean?
so.
What does hoe? She's a hoe. What does that mean?
Yeah,
does
but
that
you're
mean
not
she has a
attaching-
really low body count, or?
Yeah, but you're not, it's just a different verbiage, I guess.
Yeah, but it's saying the same exact thing. You're saying that chick has slept with way more dudes than I'm comfortable with. You're saying the same exact thing, right?
Yeah, but you kind of just like know that about like people in the neighborhood or whatever. You don't like write it down on an application like your number, like your last name, like your social security number. That's what I'm talking about. It's just kind of weird.
So your objection is that people are more precise with it? So they're like instead of you just slandering me with a generalization, you want to actually know the details of it so that I can give a possible defense of myself? That seems to me to be absurd, right? That seems counterintuitive. That like the precision of it is the objection, not the fact that you did indeed used to talk about it all the time. And let's be real. You and your girlfriends in the 90s, you talked about the promiscuous girls on the block, and you talked about the playboys who were around. Let's not kid ourselves.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't like, oh, did you hear John has slept with exactly 17 and a half people or something like that? Like, it was just weird.
No, it's just implied. So, I mean, it's just like, it's just, for some reason for you, going around the edges of the thing is more important than the thing itself. It's like, okay, so John has slept with a lot of chicks. We understand that, right? Your only objection is the precision with how many chicks he slept with. That seems totally counterintuitive to me. It seems like that would be the information you would want to know more than the generalization.
Well,
right?
to me, it's kind of like saying, okay, John has slept with 17 and a half people. And that's like saying, like, okay, John has a big dick.
How do you sleep with a half a person? Like, I guess
don't know.
you could.
If they're bisexual?
I'm just saying it's weird for a number, but I'm just saying.
Are we at a magic show?
Okay. Saying, like, that's the difference between saying John slept with a lot of people, or we know he's a hoe, and the exact number, versus, like, John has a big dick, and then, like, going into detail, like, describing specific things about it. I guess that's my court, like, you know, you could just do one thing. You don't need to, like, go into
people have very specific
minutia about it.
Well, they have very specific preferences about the things that they want. And in modernity, because there's such a small pool which fits the preferences of so many people, I think they just don't want to waste time. And so they're like, can we just get to the nitty gritty? And instead of us using kind of the generalizations and innuendo and the slander and this and that, they're just up front, right? They're just like, look, lady, how many dudes have you fucked, right? And what they want to know from that, the information that they want to know from that is, are you going to be a good partner for me, or are you not going to be a good partner for me? It just seems like a great way to just not beat around the bush and not bullshit, right?
Would you not agree that there are many other factors that play into what defines a good partner or not?
Absolutely. I would say that that the scope of what we're talking about here is so broad. We're taking into account billions of people's individual preferences and this type of thing. But I'm going to caveat this with, there are general truths that seem to trend across the board for men and women when it comes to preferences. I'll give you a really basic one. Women tend to like men who are taller than them. In fact, let's just get a show of hands right here. How many women right here at this table prefer that their men are taller than them? All of them, right? Every single one of them, including you, right?
Yeah.
So now we have kind of these universals which go in too. Now, if you were to insert men into every seat that you're in right now, and I said, how many of you would prefer that your women had slept with less than 3 men, how many of them do you think would raise their hand?
Okay, yeah, I totally
hang
see that.
Hang on, answer the question first.
All of
and then
them.
give me the qualifier.
All of them,
All of them.
100%.
All of them. So we
Yeah,
have some
I get
universals
that.
here, right? We have some universals.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. So it's like, so I want to address the point specifically, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say about it.
Oh, okay.
You said it was crude, though, to like...
Yeah,
So if a
yeah, do
guy
you know
were
what
to
I
ask you
mean?
that on the first date, would that be...
Yeah, that's like, I wouldn't ask him to see his bank statement or like, you know, I think there's
You'd
so
ask
many...
him his job.
Yeah, I guess I would. That's normal conversation. But for me, what's more important is like political values, family values, like that. For me, like I was in a 2-year relationship. We broke up because we ended up like it was during a certain period of time recently.
So, but what would actually be wrong if this was a deal breaker for a guy and this would conceivably save him and you time? What would
if
actually
if that's a deal breaker for him, or proceed with the question and then.
Now the question is,
I mean?
though, would it be a deal breaker for you that he even asked it?
Well, that's what I was kind of trying to say is like even not asking, but people are just I've seen people like post like just like about their body count or talk about it, and in a not dating situation, like just in a public situation, and I just think that's kind of like I don't think I would be inclined to want to talk to somebody who thought that was like a neat topic to like talk about. It's kind of private.
I think. I understand the social taboo nature of the thing that you're kind of appealing to here, but I think, I think that men, the more men I talk to, I get this kind of belief more reinforced. I think that if a woman, let's say she had a really high body count, if she sat down on her first date with a man and she said, look, I fucked a lot of things up in my life, including the fact that I slept with way more dudes than I should have, right? And I'm not going to do this anymore. Then I'm going to be a good wife for the man who I end up marrying. Mm-hmm. And I fucked this all up, okay? I think that men would have 20 times more respect for those women.
I agree.
Than the ones who go, none of your business, it's not your concern, and they beat around the edges and this and that. I think if they were just direct and said, look, I fucked it all up, but I'm ready to unfuck it all, I think most men would be like, all right.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I mean, I can't disagree with that statement. I think that's totally true. I think people can change a lot. I've certainly changed a lot from like 18 to now.
Thank you, Josh. Go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
I got with my...
But do you know why? Do you know why men would respond better to that? Do you know why that is?
Yeah, because it's honesty and...
No, it's not because it's honesty.
Accountability?
It's because it's a sign of accountability.
Oh, there you go.
It's a sign of accountability. It's a sign of you saying, I can recognize when I make horrible mistakes and I can correct them so that those mistakes never happen again. And it's so rare for men, at least the ones that I've talked to actually run into women who take accountability for anything. And that, I think, is why you would earn this really key note of respect. You would actually earn respect with the honesty rather than I have to find out later and all this bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that you shouldn't talk about in a relationship. I just, just the like bluntness of it, I guess, right away is just kind of.
I think I know what you're saying. Like, I think when you go on a date, like, I like can go on like countless dates, but like never it occurred to me like a guy would be like, oh yeah, by the way, what's your body count? Like, there's a conversation where there's going to be like, what is your dating history or like background look like? It's not going to be bluntly like, how many people have you fucked?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Really?
I just don't like.
So you never sat down on a date and asked, well, how much money do you make? What do you
I've
do
never
for a
asked
living?
that.
I feel like that goes in like with certain dates.
No,
like,
you might beat around the bush, but what you're asking is how much money do you make? When you ask, what is your career? What is your career trajectory? What are the things that what are your goals? What are your aspirations? You're asking the question of, what is the monetary value that you are bringing to the table? Because that's within the line of your preference, and I think that that's fine. But then to say, well, to men, they can't also move towards their preference and be like, well, how many dudes have you fucked, right? Like, how many? Just be honest with it. Why is that such a taboo for women, other than they want to avoid accountability?
I don't think it. For me personally, I also don't really. Money isn't a top value for me in my compatibility with the man, so I wouldn't ask those kind of.
Yeah, really? You're gonna date a homeless
let me see
guy?
your wallet. Like,
you gonna
let me
date
see
a
how
homeless
much you're
guy?
making.
Wouldn't date.
You gonna date a homeless guy in a box who lives out of his car?
Because of hygiene issues, probably not. But I
No,
mean,
he has great hygiene.
I'm
He
not
just
going
has
to be like
$0
Lauren over
and
here.
you're gonna have to support him forever.
Wealth and status are not on my top 5 priority list.
That's fair.
Really? So just so I get this clear, a homeless guy has really good hygiene. You'd be willing to take care of him forever?
No, I didn't say that. I said
No,
wealth.
you didn't say that. So wealth,
like
or the
extreme-
ability, the ability to take care of yourself, the ability to make money is on your priority list. It's kind of foolish, in fact, to say that it's not, right? Of course it is.
No, I mean like, you know, $1 million. I don't have a number. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So you'll date a guy who works at McDonald's?
I think McDonald's is poison, so I probably wouldn't for health reasons.
You don't
Not because of the money, right?
But yeah, I would date like a ranch hand or somebody that was in school. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so $6.77 an hour worker.
Do you want to get remarried?
I would like to get married, yeah. But I'm really low maintenance.
Well, not remarried, but you want to get married?
I would like to get married.
Wait, you're low maintenance?
Like my monthly income with 3 kids is like, or my monthly expenses are like $2,500.
Okay.
It's really
with
not.
Three kids?
Yeah. Okay. Like my daughters work, like, I don't know. It's just not that important to me.
You get child support?
I don't get child support. I never took him to court until recently for some other reason related to my son not liking his girlfriend, but he doesn't pay child support.
I see.
And that was just last year, and it's been 8 years since we've been split up. It's really unfortunate that he doesn't. He's just not a great guy, and it's sad.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. I just, to kind of, I don't mean to belabor the point, but
I've just never been after someone for money.
If you have tons of social responsibilities, in this case 3 children, that you have to look after, your maternal instinct is there to look after these children. I assume that you love and adore them and they are the priority of your life, right?
Yeah.
So if this is the case, then of course, why would you want to get together with a bum or with somebody who would refuse to
get with a bum, but I don't need to be with the CEO,
Well, but you're kind of playing to the 2 extremes, right? So there's a distinction here, though, that we don't need to look at the 2 extremes of you're a bum in the street or a CEO to note that you would still probably prefer a guy who made 6 figures a year. Of course you would. Why wouldn't you?
Well, my grandma used to always sound like my grandma. She used to always say you could fall in love with a rich man just as easily as you could fall in love with a poor man. But I don't necessarily find that true. Sometimes I feel like guys with money they have different priorities than me. They care about status. They care about cars. They care about buying me like expensive bags. I don't want that stuff. I really don't like it.
You want them to care about you, right?
They want them to care about me. I would rather have like life experiences. I don't have anything fancy. I don't want anything fancy. I think it's a waste of money.
But you realize this creates a double entendre for men. The double entendre it creates is, I want a man to be focused on me, care about me, show that he loves and appreciates me. But you know how men do that. How do they do that? They usually do it by saying, okay, well, I'm going to go accumulate an amount of money and wealth, and then I'm going to utilize those resources to take care of you. That's how they show that. How they don't show it is by going, oh, baby, you're the best. You're so gorgeous. You're the best in the world. And I can't wait to spend time watching this gay soap opera with you, right? They don't do it that way.
Yeah.
What they do instead is they focus on the accumulation of resources, and then them sharing those resources with you is how they show that they care a lot about you.
Right. But there's like douchey rich guys, and there's guys that have money that don't act in a douchebag way. So I think that
totally agree.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't want someone who's like flashy, I guess. Like I wouldn't.
You can lie too. There's a lot of facades nowadays. Like people be like, "Oh, I'm not homeless. I make a lot of money," and then they pull up in a hoopty doopty, and you're like.
There are some things I care about, but I don't think I would ever put an actual number on how much like I need my person to make when there are other priorities.
I don't think it's necessary for you to put an exact number to note that if they had all of the qualities and additional money on top of all the qualities,
it would be nice. It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt.
Right.
But I'm not looking for it. I'm not seeking it out.
I feel like you guys are kind of arguing the same point here. I think like the whole point in the body count conversation is to say, like if this man is asking what your body count is, it's not to be like vulgar. It's to see like, okay, if this woman has a high body count, she has some inconsistencies within her dating pattern, so maybe her and I are going to have a short-lived relationship based on like these frequent people she's sleeping with. But I think it's the same way you would ask, like, how many partners have you had in the past? You would ask, like, oh, what do you do for work? Because these are, like, different value sets that people have, right?
But a man would also ask the woman, what do you do for work? So I think that's just general conversation.
Right, yeah. So that would also be within, like,
but wait, hang on. Yeah, I agree that could be general, general conversation. But that doesn't mean that they're asking each other the same question. Even if it's identically phrased, that doesn't mean they're actually asking each other the same question. They could mean very different things by what they're asking by that question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I guess it's also what your intention is when you're dating somebody. Are you dating to just hook up with somebody? Are you dating to have a short-lived romance? Are you dating to get married? I mean, these are all very different things. So some people, might be entitled to a little bit more information than other people regarding maybe even your job and your income too. Maybe you're just planning on taking this girl and then not ever talking to her again. So she doesn't really need to know that much about your life. But maybe you want like something more serious with her, so you would, strive to have more deeper conversations about
Well, actually,
things.
this is a great segue. So I assume that you would think that it was important if a man, his intention was to just sleep with you and then never talk to you again, that he let you know that that was the case.
That would be great. I don't think guys do that.
That would, that would be fantastic, right? Because otherwise he would be wasting your time, right?
And I think girls should probably do the same thing. Like, hey, I'm just here for a good time, or hey, I'm looking for something more serious. Is there something you want to ask me?
If you don't fit my preferences,
things you want to talk about?
My preferences of body count, or if you don't fit my preferences of body count, you're wasting my time by not disclosing that information. I have to find it out
you
later.
guys both have to have the same
thing, right?
You have to both have the same preferences, the same intentions, and the same values. If not, it's not a good match. So you should both move on anyways. Yeah,
right. But to my point, right, if you think that it's pertinent for a man to say, listen, look, baby, my plan here is just to take you out on my yacht, and we're going to bang, and then I'm never going to call you again. Right? You would prefer that he was upfront with that. That makes total sense to me why you would prefer that, because you don't want your time wasted by some fuckboy, right? Okay, that's fair enough.
I think a lot of times... Okay, go ahead.
But the flip side to this is, but the same thing is going to apply to a man who's like, look, I really want to know how many dudes you've slept with before I pursue this relationship, because otherwise it's a waste of time. Doesn't that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense if the intention for the relationship that they're pursuing with you is more value, like a marriage or engagement or long-term dating. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
But you both have to match on that, is all I'm
Maddie,
saying.
can you read these?
I feel like a guy asking for a body count on first date is a green flag to me, because that shows he's looking for more than a hookup. If he just wanted to F you, he wouldn't bother asking.
Yeah, I suppose if he didn't care, then...
That's fair.
If he wasn't interested in long term.
Not sure that follows.
Yeah.
It could just be that he doesn't want to sleep with a chick who slept with a lot of dudes, even if he has no intention of pursuing a relationship. Like that could also follow.
Yeah, it could be true. But I think a guy who just wants to sleep with a girl once is probably less preoccupied with her body count.
Yeah, I think that would be generally true. I would agree with
that. Go ahead, Maddie.
To the girl from Las Vegas, one of the two mayoral candidates, Victoria Seaman, is suing the city of Vegas for the second time. Ladies, raise your hand if she should be elected. #peak feminism.
What?
You're from Vegas. Do you know anything? I don't know anything about this.
I have not heard. I don't know if this is like new news.
Okay. Well, none of the women raised their hands, so it sounds like it's a no.
Not familiar with
Stream Rift, thank you for the 100, though. Thank you for bringing Las Vegas local politics into the whatever. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Steph.
Andrew, I hope my future husband is as based as you. Thank you for being a great example of healthy masculinity, and also for all you do to help with women wake up to degeneracy. Respect and love from Australia.
This is a bot. You can tell by the end of what was being stated here that's a bot.
Kudos to you, though, Andrew. You definitely made a great statement when you were like, it'd be weird if somebody asked me about my body count and then not make me feel like patronized about like, oh, why is this your body count? It'd be more like, okay, you're taking accountability. So I see you and I see what your intentions are. That is major than being like, what is your body count and the purpose of like, are you a whore or not? Or like, you like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So like, have you noticed, for instance, okay, and I think that this is the kind of be nice culture that women are subjected to from the time that they're little kids inside of public school. But I'll often ask this question, and you seem like you'll probably give me an honest answer to it. Isn't it true that women, when they sit down at a table with other women, all the time this happens, they basically judge the shit out of each other. They nitpick what each other are wearing. They nitpick their hair. They nitpick their makeup. They don't say it out loud, right? But just in their head, they just like nitpick every little detail. And what I'll often see, go ahead, answer it.
Sorry, I was going to answer it because it was a question, but yes and no. I feel like it comes with the women that you hang out with. So like in my friend group, a lot of us are very much more like, you don't compare our friends. And that's something we literally had a discussion about on the way here, because it's like, hey, I find it insulting that you're going to be like, well, I think you're the hottest friend in the group. Like, ew, first, because you're not going to compete with your friends. Yeah. If you feel like something doesn't look good, that enhances.
Okay, hang on. Let's untangle two ideas.
Okay.
Out loud, saying those things out loud, sure, absolutely. I'm asking about what goes on in your brain. Right?
If it doesn't look good, you better tell me.
In your brain, are you really saying that you sit down with your friend group and never make judgment? Like, come on, really?
Everybody judges.
Everyone judges.
Some capacity,
yeah, of course, right? But my ultimate point for bringing this up is to tell you that I know that that's true, and you know that that's true. But so often women will kind of lie and be like, no, I never judge anybody. I'm the most non-judgmental person ever. I've never judged any other woman ever. I am the key point of all that is feminism and a dainty lady. And I would never, right? I would never do so. And it's like, come on, are you fucking serious? So the thing is, it's like part of what this idea of accountability is just to say, like, look, we know that it's true. Just fess the fuck up. Right? Be accountable to the things that are actually happening. Is that fair?
Yeah. It shouldn't be that big of a barrier for it to be like that serious. If it's that serious, then it means it obviously bugs you, or like you find you find it more like attacking, if not like controversy. Like if it's such a controversy thing, that means it bothers you so much to do it. And if it doesn't bother you, then just like, okay, this is what it is. And if it's not meant to be, then it's just like, okay, fuck it. There's more fish in the sea, but this is what it is. And I did fuck and do all this stuff for accountability reasons, but like, this is what I want in the future. That goes like a big, long way. And I think a lot of women don't really see it that way. Like they just be like, what's my
I think you're right. And the thing is like, you might outright get rejected by such honesty. Yeah. But the truth is at least you have integrity. Mm-hmm. And that you at least walk away with some fucking respect, right?
For real. 100%.
Andrew, so how about if, like, for me, a bigger, more important issue is like abortions. Like, I think, how come guys aren't asking have you had an abortion? Have you had any abortions? Like, that to me would be like a really big sign to your point of like, do I want to marry this woman? That's something that like, well, no, I'm just relating it to body counts.
Wait, but how does that correlate?
Yeah,
because it correlates for the purpose.
You
of
know what I'm saying, right? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a good point, right?
Yeah.
And it's set to the value structure.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think that if you were with a person or dating a person who was Christian, followed Christian ethics, they likely would want your stance on abortion. I don't think they'd come right out and ask you, right? Because sitting down at the first date and saying that you murder babies might be a little over the top, right?
Yeah.
But I think that they would at least ask your stance on this.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting confused at.
Yeah, I was just
like not so much.
No, I would never ask that on a date.
Because I think the typical person, I guess, like the typical woman's not getting abortion, so I think that's a random question to ask. That's a very specific one.
Yeah, I was relating it to the body count question
I think
thing.
It's important.
Yeah.
What do you mean the typical woman's not?
Yeah, I think a lot of women do, and it's really.
What does that entail?
Yeah, I think the typical woman is getting abortions. I think you're completely wrong.
No, I
think
agree.
that's very typical.
I mean, I guess.
Unfortunately.
I think, I agree.
Wait, is Plan B considered like abortion? Would you consider that abortion?
No, there's some different conversations going around on if like Plan B is considered an abortion. I would say that as far as like what research has been done, it's a preventative and it's not considered like a termination of pregnancy. When we're talking about abortion,
what do you mean it's not considered a termination of pregnancy? Well, what the hell is it? Is there a life in the womb? Or is there not a life?
So I fundamentally, I don't agree with Plan B. Like, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, that doesn't answer my question.
I would say that Plan B, it delays ovulation, right? If I'm wrong. It would delay ovulation from occurring, therefore fertilization would not have a chance to occur, right? Like in the case of taking Plan B.
Is that Plan B or is that the...
But there's no life in Plan B.
That's the morning
like,
after.
There's no kid in you
Plan
if you
B
have
is the morning after pill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we're not talking about like
there is an abortion.
mifepristol.
Okay, but there is an abortion pill.
You're
as
thinking
well.
Yeah, that's different.
mifepristol.
Yeah,
Mifepristol is the
okay.
one that terminates pregnancy after fertilization occurs. There's some IUDs that also make the uterus an inhabitable environment,
sounds so
which I
scary.
disagree with, which takes a fertilized blastocyst and terminates the pregnancy. So we could argue like that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. So my position would just be for abortion. I think most people from the Christian purview, though mine would be even more extreme than this. I would at least concede to at least the rationale of there is no life there. Now you could make this
There is.
kind of extraneous. No, for Plan B, I thought you just said there wasn't.
Oh, not for Plan B. Sorry, I thought you
Well,
meant.
yeah.
at
So for
conception.
Plan B, I think that you could make this as kind of extraneous as you want. You could say, well, we could get into semen itself being the seed of life and the different religious beliefs around that.
Yeah.
But I think we can at least stick with the idea that if there's no life present, most men would probably say, okay, you're not having an abortion here.
Yeah, there's like preventative, and then when you're talking abortion, you're talking the actual elective, like murdering of a baby in utero. So that's
Yeah. So,
different.
but that aside, when she's making the statement, she's actually asking about abortion itself.
Yeah.
So she's saying, okay, are you going in and having an abortion done? You said that's not typical. I disagree. I think that's very typical.
It's very typical.
I would say,
think
yeah.
it's
I mean,
very typical.
since I guess in the last decade, yeah. I mean, there have been 70 million abortions that have occurred, and
Pretty typical.
yeah, and I think per year it's like 2 million. I guess I misspoke on that. I think where I got like thrown off was if I were on a first date and a man asked me if I had an abortion, I guess I'd be thrown off, and of course I would say no, and that I'm pro-life. But it's just, yeah, I guess I just haven't heard that one before.
It was just a comparison. I don't think
Yeah.
people are saying that on dates. Maybe in the super Christian community, but it was just a comparison for the whole.
Well,
like
I do
how
have
I
to-
No,
was.
I don't think that they would. I think that they would try to gauge what your stance was on it in general.
That's good. I
Right? They'd
think
say, what is your stance here on this?
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
then they could use an inference there, right? I don't even think most men would just come right out and ask you your body count either. They would use inferences first, right? But I don't actually see there being a problem with either question.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Hey,
think asking.
have you
your
ever had an
stance is
abortion? Seems reasonable to me. That seems like a reasonable
Yeah.
question. You may
But
not like
just
it.
like
It may
you were,
seem uncomfortable.
just like you were saying that the woman who is accountable.
Dylan Joe donated $200. Is it fair for your chick to have trust issues with you even if you're innocent and show no signs of being unfaithful? Andrew?
All right, that one came in earlier. I'm moving the conversation on. So that TTS came in earlier. Is it fair for your chick to have trust issues with you even if you're innocent and show no signs of being? Is this a question for the women at the table?
Or the men on the mic.
It sounds like
I
a
don't
question
know.
for
These
the parents.
questions
I don't
sometimes.
know.
We can go both ways, I guess.
Thank you, Dylan. Is it fair for your chick to have trust issues? No, it's not fair.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's fair.
I don't think it's fair either. That's her own issues.
Yeah. It's a
She's bringing
personal
into
problem.
the projecting onto the man.
It's kind of like when a chick dreams that you cheated on her, and then
wakes up and
she
punches
holds
you.
that shit against you. That in her dream you cheated on her. So
I mean, trust issues come with, like, if you have trust issues and you're like openly dating, I feel like you need to like secure your own confidence, and like you can project a lot of your insecurities onto like relationships.
Yeah.
I agree.
and then this one came in.
Techno Trooper donated $200. How many bodies is too many bodies for a female? What is past the threshold where it is unacceptable?
It's a good question. I think depends on the age. I mean, once you start getting into, I'm not saying it's 100% deal breaker, but certainly once
Hang on, Brian. He said for a female.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, like as in too
As
many
in
bodies.
from a woman's perspective, how many bodies? is
Oh,
too
I
many
don't think
bodies?
so.
No,
I don't think so.
I think it can be read the other way. Too many bodies for a female to have?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Oh,
hear
to
your
have,
perspective.
okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear yours.
Well, I mean, it's not a deal breaker immediately, but I think once you get above 10, then it's an eyebrow raise.
What if you have 10 in the time span of you having from the age that you did have sex, let me just make up a number, 19 to, let's say, like I'm 26, 10, right? But let's say I'm 33-year-old virgin, and then I end up discovering sex, and I like have like 10 or 12 just because I finally let it go. But it also comes with accountability, like Andrew was saying.
Yeah.
So like, is it that really such a deal breaker part, or is that too much just because of like the time span of it, or is it just because of the experience of you being with 10 men?
So you say the question is essentially a woman who's had sex with one guy a year for X amount of years versus a woman who's had sex with 10 partners in the span of 1 year.
Is it the time span, or is it the
number,
people, or is it the number?
Both.
I think we'd look at it, I think most men would look at it the same way. Though I think it would throw a greater red flag if they did them kind of like back to back to back.
Yeah.
That would show even less kind of restraint, but I think that they would look at the overall count. So the way I look at it is this. This is an arbitrary metric. I'm not going to deny that it's an arbitrary metric. It's based on preference, right? There's nothing that I can point to where I can say, this is the dyed-in-the-wool metric which every man follows or should follow. But I can say this as a almost definite across the board. The less, the better. And since it is always the case that it is the less, the better, at least in almost all men that I have talked to, then every single time that you have sex with a new man, this is going to lower your value in the eyes of most men. So that's how I would frame it. I couldn't give you an exact number, but I don't think I need to if you know that every single one above one makes you worth less, at least in the eyes of men, than if you had zero. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But would you also agree that there are other things that you could bring to the table that could raise your value? So it's kind of like this chart graph of like different things that come together to make a whole.
No.
So one's a
here's
big
the thing.
deal
I would say on the issuance of body count loyalty is what that's pointing to. So let me explain this the best way that I can. Paternity testing is a modern invention. It is something which is very recent. Before the idea of paternity testing came around, how would a man be able to judge if his offspring was his or if he had been cuckolded and his wife had slept with somebody else, had their offspring, and now this man is raising offspring unwittingly, which is not his own? The only way to really determine that metric would be to have a woman who was a virgin, and the reason that you would want that is because then you know that this woman is devoted only to you. Whereas if she'd had multiple sexual partners before that, it's much more difficult to make the determination she would be with you. And now with paternity testing, we know how many women lie about paternity. It's actually a great many more than we ever thought. So I think that this is something which is hardwired into men for a good reason.
Yeah, but just also because a woman's a virgin in a relationship doesn't mean she's not going to cheat on you and go run around and do all that stuff.
I think that the likelihood, though, that a woman who is a virgin in a relationship with you does run around is going to be far less than the likelihood of a woman who is promiscuous doing so. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, what if you've just like awakened this virgin? What if Lauren here is some like hidden like freak and she like gets awakened and now she's just like running around town?
Hold on. So really quick on the whole cheating thing. Really quick on the whole cheating thing. Me personally, while it can be an indicator for potential infidelity, at least for me, that's not really the primary reason. Frankly, I just think it's gross.
Yeah.
I can't even articulate precisely why. I actually could.
But that's why you think it's gross.
It's just disgusting.
I can respect that a little bit more. I agree with that opinion more because that I can understand that more.
But that's why it's disgusting. Don't you understand? Like the reason that men find it disgusting is because of that hardwired, innate understanding of if you're sleeping with multiple men, I cannot determine offspring. That's why it's disgusting to men. That's why they find it gross. It's like, it's not enough to just say it's gross, right? The justification for it is very simple. And so when we dive into this, I'd like to engage directly with your argument, right? And your argument is, what if you awaken the beast? Now you've slept with this virgin woman, and wouldn't you be, if you awaken that beast, isn't she? Well, I suppose it's possible.
Yeah, the milkman's coming by.
But here's what the data shows us. Here's what we know from the data. Because women who marry as virgins have only the sample size of their husband, right? That's the sample that they have. They think that's the best sex in the world. What the fuck would they have to compare it to?
Right. Yeah, I actually have friends that
nothing. They have nothing to compare it to. So that's why the longevity and the faithfulness in those relationships tends to be much higher than it is in the general public.
Yeah, I have some very happily married couple friends that have been together since high school that have never been with anybody else. So I totally see that. I've also seen on the other side of the spectrum, really unhappy, like people that wanted to resented that. They wish they had more experience. And I've also seen people with a lot of experience.
I can't argue with your anecdotes.
Yeah.
I can't argue with anecdotal experience, so I'm going to defer to what we see from polls and data from people who are studied, who enter into virgin relationships, their divorce rate, their marriage rate, their happiness rates, infidelity rates. I'll defer to when we have a much larger sample size than what I personally have seen, but rather them being followed so that we understand what the outcomes of those types of relationships are. And here's what we see, just so you know. What we see specifically is that men and women who get married as virgins, their relationships last far longer, their divorce rates are far less, far less. And if a man marries a virgin who's not a virgin, same thing, almost the same identical outcome. However, if the woman is promiscuous and the man is promiscuous, the outcome's usually bad when it comes to divorce. Same thing if only one partner is promiscuous. So what we can ascertain from this is that if you're both virgins and you get married, it's no guarantee that you won't awaken the beast in the woman, but it's a great mitigating factor, isn't it? It's great. It's a great way to mitigate it.
Easy as an example. Yeah, and also though, somebody with a lot of experience could just as easily know what they want now and know what they don't want, and sometimes I also want to bring up sometimes, women have been in unfortunate situations and circumstances as a young child, and there's trauma, and sometimes you find yourself in unfortunate situations where you can change. You can totally change.
Greatest copes ever by women. This is one of the greatest copes that I hear from women is the idea that I had childhood trauma. Well, here's the thing. I'm just going to be blunt with you.
Okay.
Everybody has fucking childhood trauma. Everybody.
Yeah.
Every human being on earth has childhood trauma, men or women. It's just that when men complain about it, nobody gives a shit. And when women complain about it, there's a woman there to go, "Oh, sweetie. Oh, sweetheart. I'm so sorry that happened. Oh, it's so terrible that happened. That the man was mean to you when you were, oh, sweet. Is there anything, can I give you my other shoulder to cry on too?" When it comes to men, we just don't give a shit. We're like, well, suck it up, buttercup. Get your ass back to work because we got to get this project done by 5.
Well, I do disagree that everybody has had childhood sexual trauma. I don't think that has.
Okay, I'm moving it on.
Okay.
It's highly prevalent in men. Where does this idea come from that this is exclusive to women? Oh, sorry. All right.
Well, never mind.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Nick, pull up Twitch.
Brian's displeased.
Go ahead. Guys, go to twitch.tv/whatever. Drop us a follow and a Prime sub if you want one. If you can subscribe, twitch.tv/whatever. Drop us a follow and a Prime sub. And then go to our Discord, discord.gg/whatever. You can hide that temporarily. Discord.gg/whatever. Also